Hi, my name is Elisabeth-Anne Ashby, and I'm going to show you how to run a chi-square test using SPSS. So first off, if you haven't used SPSS before, this is what the program looks like. And here, these are your different variables that you have, and you can go in and rename those. And over here you have how the question was measured, whether it was nominal or on a scale. And lastly, if you don't necessarily want to go in and change all of these, you can find your questions in the labels category and kind of go from there. So in order to run a chi-square test, you have to have two categorical variables, and you want to find the significant difference between the groups. So as an example, I ran a survey amongst BYU students, asking them questions about BYU parking. And one of my questions was, is there a significant difference between the year in school and how often they drive to BYU campus per week? If you look at this, I do have two categorical variables. The first one's the year in school. They answered whether they were a freshman, a sophomore, all the way up to a graduate student. And then my second one's how often they drive to BYU campus. It was on a scale from 1 to 7, or 0 to 7. They could say they never drive to campus, all the way up to they drive every single day. So let's go ahead and run the chi-square test. So when you're in SPSS, you go up to Analyze, and then you go to Descriptive Statistics, and then you click on Crosstabs. And this little dialog box will pop up. And you want to put the two variables that you're trying to find the difference between into these two boxes. It doesn't matter which question goes on which. You can do either or. I happen to have how many times a week do they drive to BYU campus in the rows, and then what year in school they are in the columns. Before you finish, you need to press Statistics and make sure that chi-square box is checked, because that's the type of test that you want to run with this crosstabs. So go ahead and press Continue, and then also press the Cells button, and you want to make sure this Observed should already be checked, so you're good on that. But you want to make sure that these percentages are all showing up in the box that will come after you press the OK button. So make sure the rows, columns, totals, these are the percentages that you're going to see in the box, and you want to make sure that those are checked. So go ahead and press Continue, and then we should be done. So go ahead and press OK. And then another box will show up, and it will give you your crosstab for your chi-square test. Now we'll get to this part in a little bit, explain what all these percentages mean. But if you scroll down to all the way to the bottom, this is the box that you really want to be looking at, because this will tell you if there is a significant difference or not between the year in school and how often they drive to campus. So the first thing you want to look at is your p-value. Your p-value will let you know if it's a significant difference. If it's greater than 0.05, then it's not a significant difference. If it's less than 0.05, then it is a significant difference. So if we look here, it's over 0.05, meaning that this is not a very significant difference. And so once you figure that out, you can go ahead and write your description presenting all this information. So you can start out here. So I say the chi-square test was conducted to determine if there was a significant difference between year and school. And then I went ahead and listed how that was measured, so freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or graduate, and how often they drive to BYU campus. Again, I listed how it was measured, 0 times to 7 times a week. Of the 55 people who participated in the survey, of course the 55 is just my sample size, the results of the test indicated that there was not a significant difference between the two variables. Once again, because the p-value was over 0.05. So then we go ahead and write the equation, which this is my equation. You can see what everything means up here. So you do x squared, and then the degrees of freedom, which if you go back to your SPSS, the degrees of freedom can be found here. So 18, which is what I have here. and then comma n equals, and then your sample size, which is 55. And then you do your chi-square value, which once again, if you go back to your SPSS, you can find that right here. So 15.05. So I wrote that there. And then you do comma, and then your p-value, which you don't actually have to write exactly what your p-value is, just whether or not it was greater or less than. So in this case, it was greater than. Now for this next part, I'll go back to the SPSS, and here's the box that describes all the statistics that you need, because what you want to do after you write out your equation is give some statistics, give a little bit of information from what you got from the crosstabs. So if you go here, I'm going to look solely at this box, just so I can explain what each percentage is. So this 20%, if you go over here, this really helps you. So the percent within how many times per week do you drive to BYU. So this 20% under the sophomores ultimately means of the students who you surveyed that answered 0, that they never drive to BYU campus, 20% of them are sophomores. Okay, so one more time. Of the students that you surveyed that answered that they never drive to campus, 20% of them are sophomores. Now the 60% is, which again, if you look over here, it says, within which year in school are you? So, of all the sophomores that you surveyed, 60% of them said that they never drive to campus. Okay? So of all the sophomores that you surveyed, 60% of them said that they never drive to campus. And then lastly, this 5.5%, if you look over here, it's the percent of total. So that means of everyone who you surveyed, 5.5% of them were sophomores that said that they never drive to BYU campus. So of all the students that you surveyed, 5.5% of them were sophomores that said that they never drive to BYU campus. And so you can do this throughout the whole entire thing. So you can go here and say, for the 75% of the students who you surveyed that said they drive twice a week to campus, 75% of them were seniors. So once you kind of got that down, it's pretty easy to decipher all of this information. And what you ultimately want to do is you want to look through, see if there's anything interesting that you might want to write in your description, and you can go from there. So I said of the seniors, 28.1% drive to campus 2 times a week, and of juniors, 23.5% drive to campus once a week. And then I also kind of noticed, which I thought was interesting, that I have sophomore, juniors, seniors, and graduates, but freshmen was also an option, but I don't have any freshmen, and that was because of the people I surveyed, no one were freshmen, so that category kind of got thrown out. And so I made it a point to say, since I did not have any freshmen take my survey, it is unclear what they represent, because without that information, you can't really make any assumptions or about their behaviors or what they might have answered, because you don't have information on that. So that would be an opportunity perhaps to go and do more research and get more freshmen to kind of figure out what they've been going. So that is how you run a chi-square test using SPSS. I hope this helped a lot. I hope that you'll be able to use this for future reference.